A family is calling for resignations after their loved one died in a shared cell at Mount Eden Prison. Rob Fitzpatrick's death is one of 3 involving double bunking at the jail in just over 12 months. His family believes that their loss could have been avoidable. Investigative reporter Michael Morra reports.
Inside Mount Eden Prison, there have been 3 suspected murders in shared cells in the space of just over 12 months. The deaths have raised questions about double bunking and the protocols followed by the prison. One of those allegedly killed by his cellmate was whangarei man Rob Fitzpatrick.
In your mind, Ross, was your brother's death avoidable, and were mistakes made by government agencies?
Yeah, definitely. This whole situation was avoidable.
Corrections says risk assessments are carried out prior to deciding if prisoners are suitable to be bunked together. It's a system now being reviewed. Fitzpatrick was found dead in his cell in June last year.
For that to be his last moments,
Yeah.
and that he was alone, it's so hard to sit with. And I just can't think of anything else we could have done.
Rob, who had mental health issues, had been sending unwanted messages to a woman for a decade. In October 2024, the situation came to a head and Rob was served with a restraining order. Despite this, he kept messaging the complainant. In prison, Rob was buddied up with a man who had been charged with attempted murder in what police described as an extremely violent assault on another man at a Mangere bus stop. The victim in that case was hospitalised but survived.
We just want to know why those clowns running Mount Eden Prison, from the top down, from the general manager down to the people who were there, who signed off on a decision, why is he a good candidate to share a cell with someone else?
The families say they have not been told what the corrections assessment entailed or who signed it off in Rob's case. What they do know is that Rob's death in a shared cell is not isolated.
Do you have confidence, Ross, that things have changed or are going to change
No.
after your brother's death?
No, especially since someone died just before Christmas, the same thing, double bunked. I got no, it's, unless they need to change the management there.
Do you think he should still have his job?
No, he shouldn't have his job.
Dion Paki is the manager at Mount Eden Prison. Corrections would not address a question about whether he should resign when asked by the Herald. They cited various investigations and said while the family absolutely deserve answers, they were limited in what they could say right now.
Rob Fitzpatrick's alleged attacker has now been charged with murder. Leigh Marsh, Department of Corrections, Commissioner for Custodial Services, is with us this morning to respond to Michael's story. Leigh, thanks for being with me this morning.
Morning, Ryan.
Firstly, I know you will have reviews up the wazoo, I'm sure, underway. Would you like, first of all, to say sorry maybe to Rob's family?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to express my deepest condolences to both Rob's family and the families of the other men who've tragically lost their lives within our facilities. As you've heard me say before, violence within our facilities is absolutely unacceptable, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that those responsible for this are held to account for those actions.
What are you saying sorry to them for?
I'm sorry that they've unfortunately lost a member of their family, a loved one of their family, while they've been in our care and custody.
Corrections has a policy, and Michael's story mentions this, of doing a risk assessment for shared cells when it's double bunking. Was the assessment done in this case?
The assessments are always done prior to putting 2 people in a cell, and it looks at the compatibility of not just the ability to mix people, but the ability to mix those 2 particular individuals. I can't go into the details specific to each of these cases today, because obviously we do not want to get in the way of holding those responsible to this to account. We want to make sure that that's seen through to its fullest. But what I can say is we are having a very close look at, firstly, the sort of information that's available to our staff at the time they make those decisions, especially when someone's first arrived into custody, and a lot of that information is initially maybe unknown to us because it's coming in from other agencies or in from the community. But we're also looking at, or we have immediately looked at, what happens in the days following the initial assessment. Now, what I would say is the assessment is not the answer to this. It's around the controls and processes and mitigations that we have after the fact. We can't expect just to do a risk assessment and everything will stay static from that point on.
So, was a risk assessment done in this case or not?
The risk assessment's done for all prisoners.
In this case, we definitely have a risk assessment.
As I say, assessments are done for all cases. I can't go into the details of that, Ryan, unfortunately. As I said before, I don't want to.
No, I know, but you're saying that they're done for all cases, which implies to anyone who's watching this that one was done for Rob, but then you're not saying one was done for Rob. Can you be more explicit? Was one done for Rob's case or not?
All I'm saying is they are done for all cases, understanding that would include this case. I'm not going to go.
All right, so we've got a risk assessment, and you're saying the risk assessment looks at the history of the offender or alleged offender, mental health as well. How do you put somebody who is charged with attempted murder and violent offences in a cell with somebody who's not?
The assessment takes into account a range of considerations, and it's based on information that's available at a point in time.
So you didn't know what they were charged with?
No, I'm not saying that, but again, I'm not going into the details of that particular risk assessment. Sorry, Ryan.
And why is that?
Because I don't want to jeopardise the trajectory of any investigation. I want to make sure for these families that the men who did these horrific crimes are held to account, and I don't want to jeopardise that. What I will say, though, is not only are we going to make sure that they're held to account to the best of our ability, but if any of our people were found to be negligent in their duty, they'll also be held to account. So we just got to let those processes go through. I know that's unfortunate, an unfortunate situation to be in, and I know it can be frustrating for the family. We've committed to getting that information to them as soon as possible.
I understand that this is before the courts, the incident in the cell is before the courts, but how would telling us your processes leading up to that jeopardise the case?
Because I'm not going to go into what may have been available or may not have been available at a point of time. It is subject to the court inquiry. It's also subject to an internal corrections investigation, inspectorate investigation, and it's subject to a coronial inquiry, as all deaths in prison are.
Have you had legal advice that says releasing that information could jeopardise a case?
I don't have legal advice specifically in front of me,
right.
But we do not
So
routinely
on what basis are you denying the family answers?
We're not denying the family answers. We've agreed and promised that we will share those as soon as we are able to.
With double bunking more generally, how do you explain 3 deaths in shared cells in such a short period of time?
It's an incredibly tragic situation, but I would like to put a bit of context. Double bunking is something that's used quite a bit through both our estate and internationally in other jurisdictions. What we've got to really put in context here is the Auckland catchment accounts for around 60% of our criminal justice volume within New Zealand, and the entry point for that is Mount Eden Corrections Facility. That is our one remand facility in Auckland. There are 1,300 men in that facility, and there is an incredibly large volume that goes through there. We would have in excess of 100 in and out moves per day. So it's a huge amount of storming, forming, arrivals, receptions, releases, movements to and from the court. It is an incredibly complex and large site in respect to the movements. So these risks do exist across the estate, but that is more acute at this particular site.
It sounds like you might be a bit overwhelmed. Do you have enough people?
Yeah, I think we have enough people at site. Our recruitment campaigns have gone really well. I was looking at it last week, and we only had 3 corrections officer vacancies at site, so our numbers are good. Notwithstanding that, though, we've looked at the process.
What about when this incident happened?
I don't have the staffing numbers to hand when that incident happened, but I understand there were sufficient staff on site. What I would like to say, though, is not just about the officer ranks. We've already committed to putting in place practice support on top of already existing practice support to support the staff in those custodial environments. We've increased our managerial oversight and our supervision, especially after hours, to make sure that we're doing the right things after people have been placed in cells. So it's not just about that risk assessment process, it's about the whole operation.
Is there anyone, now that you know what you know about what happened in this cell, have you reviewed others? Have you separated people because of this?
Yes.
How many?
I don't have that number to hand, but we have looked at some of how the decisions are made and the processes around when information is available to us. So, for example, if someone is celled together, they come in on an evening, they could be celled together 8, 9 o'clock at night upon reception from court. If more information comes to light the following morning, that decision's reviewed, and on some occasions those separations are changed, those decisions are changed. So we have that in place. We have a range of other changes we've put in on site specific to double bunking and high security, such as nighttime patrols, where we are conscious around things like response times and our ability to pick up on events as they occur. And I just really be clear that these events don't just happen in cells, they are horrifically tragic events. Prisons can be quite violent places, as
Yeah, absolutely. I think
before. These things can happen in the yard and the wing, so we're making sure that we've got a higher presence of officers and that capable guardianship within the wings to
all right.
support.
Leigh, we are out of time, but I appreciate you being on the program this morning. Thanks so much for appearing.